Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here. Hey, Ange, thank you. And thank you to City Library. You've been absolutely amazing support throughout this, putting up with my countless emails. But you've been really flexible and an absolute joy. And I hope we've built a bit of a friendship throughout this. Hey, thank you. This is our panel for this morning. I'll pass the mic and each lovely person, okay, Ray's saying no, and each person can do a little bit of an intro or jump into however they see fit to jump us in. I do have some questions here that we can throw around in case we get stuck. I think it would be pretty neat if we could have this as like an engagement session between our attendees that we have here, but also between our panel as well, and share information between ourselves, and we all might learn a little something, eh? So I'm an independent funeral director, and been very fortunate to be the facilitator of Dying Matters Week for us here in the Manawatū. Did we say a history of what this is? Dying Matters Week, so the main brand, Go With Grace, initiated this 2 years ago, and it's about being able to share space, community space. We can share information and break down some of those fears and stigmas around end-of-life planning and options that people have as well. Go With Grace is an absolutely phenomenal resource. They are seriously impressive, so if you're ever looking and you're online, have a look. They literally have everything A to Z that you could ever imagine. And yeah, so here we are. I'll go to the right.
Kia ora, my name's Heather Thomson. I am a memoir writer, so I write people's memoirs for them, or I help them write their own, or if they've written them, I then take them and put them together and provide hard copy books for people to hand down to future generations of their personal life stories.
Kia ora koutou, ko Diane Perenara tuku ingoa. My name is Diane Perenara. I'm a specialist palliative care nurse at Arohanui Hospice here in Te Papaioia, here in Palmerston North. We have a service that support people with life-limiting illnesses, so people with end-stage diseases or terminal cancer. We are based down on Heretaunga Street, but actually most of the work that we do is in the community, so we mostly support people in their homes. But we can talk a little bit more about Arohanui Hospice during this kōrero, but just wanted to say who I am and what my role is. Kia ora.
Kia ora koutou. So my name is Melissa Hemi, and I work for Best Care Whakapai Haora, so that's the rangitane iwi here in Palmerston North. My role there is, it's a bit of a mouthful, so it's a kaihanga kaha for OPAL CS, which is our Older Persons Assessment and Liaison Community Service Group. So my role in that space, working through Kōrero Health and the hospital, is to ensure that our Māori and Pacific whānau have the cultural support that they need when they're trying to stay in their homes, when they've had falls or they're a bit more frail. In saying that, I also work with all other ethnicities, so not just Māori and Pacific, but that is our population that we're a little bit concentrating on. We know that they fall quite a lot, and they're not being able to visit our GPs and things like that for whatever reason. So I work for Rangitane there. I also run a kaumātua group at Rangitane for our kaumātua over 55, and yes, I know that's young and I'm getting close to that. But that's what I also do there. But thank you for having me here today, and I'm sure there'll be more discussions on the way.
Morena, ko Susanna Ho. I am based out in Ashurst. I'm an end-of-life doula, and my passion in being an end-of-life doula is bringing skills and knowledge around death back to communities. One of the ways I do this is working with Death Without Debt. It's an organization that wants to reduce funeral debt for people, but also bring skills and knowledge to allow people to process death in a way that reduces grief and promotes healing. So a Death Without Debt workshop is usually 3 to 4 hours, covers everything from planning for death to death care to after-death care. The next one we're running is in Ashurst in November, if you're keen. Also in Ashurst, I'm on the board of RECAP, and that's I don't know if you've heard of RECAP, but it's an organization to promote resilience and engagement in communities. And one of my goals for RECAP is to bring a tapu fridge with cooling pads to the community for access for community members if they want to keep their loved one at home after they die. So that's my goal, future goal.
Kia ora koutou, I'm Jean Hera. I'm one of the lead people with Natural Burial Manawatū, which has been actually getting some traction over the last year or two. And the council meeting on Wednesday, the recommendations from staff are going back about the Ashurst Domain Review site for natural burial that has had a lot of support, or sites actually. I have been interested in the whole death area for quite some time. I did my PhD in the 1990s. It was called Reclaiming the Last Rites, Women in After Death Policies, Practices and Beliefs in Aotearoa, New Zealand. So I came to that through my father's death and had a typical Pākehā funeral of the 1980s that just didn't feel right, and I had a background in home birth and was involved with the women's health movement, and I thought, I actually don't know what the choices are, and things need to be done. So that led to, I started studying while I was doing my Bachelor of Social Work, and then I got honours and was invited to do a PhD, so it became my PhD topic. And it was very practical as a community worker, so it involved public records research, having awareness that women used to lay out the dead, and my great-grandmother laid out my grandfather at home in London, and how then the rise of the funeral industry, and so that was my big interest, and it was quite practical because part of what I did was action research, which was the Women's Home Death Support Group. So I'm very interested in having a cooler pad available in the community. I actually, at that time, was thinking we need something that's the opposite of an electric blanket for care for the dead at home. So now they're coming in from Holland, where it's illegal to embalm, and so they're very expensive though, like $12,000.
Yeah, and hard to import.
Yeah, so bit of a dream, that one. This year.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah. Hello there, I'm Ray, and I've got an interest in death and dying, and have had probably all my life, even though it hasn't been that evident until recent years. But I retired recently, and prior to that I was working with Think Hauora as health improvement, sorry, yes, beg your pardon, no point in having it unless I can think. So it was working in that role as a health improvement within GP practices, which was quite a new area for me. And I kind of gravitated towards working more with old patients of the practice, or clients of the practice, and seeing the loneliness, seeing the sadness of ageing, seeing how people don't. There was no real preparation for death and dying. The natural burial group was getting underway, and I was a bit involved in some of that. Doula training was doula introducing that concept was on my radar, and there was all these things popping up for me that just invited me to work more with older adults, and now I tend to visit and catch up with people who are at that end of life time, helping them with a plan, helping them to communicate with their family, and setting, a pathway towards being quite well organised and the ultimate peaceful end of life. I hope that kind of says what I do. I don't really know.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure, Laura.
Do you want to tell us what a good death means to you?
Well, that's quite a personal question, really, isn't it? Yes, I know, and I don't mind this. Yeah. Okay, no, I'm up for it. A good death for me, I practice as a Buddhist in this community, and I feel very thankful that I do have that faith to be able to support me in my ageing and the preparation for a peaceful death is certainly within the practices of Buddhism, and I practice that really, the idea of no regrets, having leading a life that is serving others, and very much working towards taking control of that monkey mind that we all have, and taming that mind towards the end of death, having control to enable a peaceful passing.
Thank you, Ray. All right, I might just flick it down this end and ask the same question.
To me.
Oh,
jeez. What was the question again?
What is a good death to you?
Okay, so I'm hoping I'm a long way from that, but I think a good death to me is in the space of that. Yeah, that I have no regrets, that I've done everything that I was put here to do, that I've looked after my family in the best way that I know how. And for me, that is educating them on what they need to do, preparing them. And I'm not just talking about my own children, but my grandchildren, my cousins, my nieces, all of those people. And knowing that when the time comes that they will have, yes, everyone is grieving, but they will also have the knowledge and skills to know that they'll be okay. And that there's no stress there, that it will just happen and it's inevitable, and that's my go-to. 3 things are inevitable in life: birth, death, and taxes. So we can't get away from them no matter our age. So I think what it looks like for me is that my children are mostly stress-free at that time. They have the education, and I've also said to them, when you get my life insurance, don't pay for my funeral. Do the most minimum funeral you can do, and while you're at my tangi, plan your holiday. So that's what I want to hear when I'm laying in state. I want to hear them laughing about where they want to go and what they want to do with that money, because I can't take it, so spend it up. Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you, Mel. Di, do you want to answer that question?
Yeah, I was just going to jump on with what you've just said. I love the idea of, at my tangi, I want my whānau to be planning their holiday, because I have got some life insurance for them. But yeah, pretty much the same as what you two have already said. I mean, if I'm thinking about myself, it's having my whānau as prepared as possible, because my lived experience with my dad dying is that he died suddenly, and I was working at the hospice then, so you'd think someone might have done some. I had done my own ACP, but that was the plan for that coming Christmas, was that we were going to talk about advanced care planning, so that when people that we love die, we kind of knew what they wanted, so we could have the best tangi for them, the best I think for my dad, since he died so quickly, and all our whānau gathered, and it's only myself and my mum that live here in Palmy, so my family came down, but it was just quite stressful because we didn't know what Dad actually wanted, if Dad wanted cremation or burial. We hadn't had that kōrero, and that was quite distressing for us, but also my brother, as the eldest in the family, took that lead, and we just leant into him. But for me, yeah, just what you guys have said, so that my family are prepared, and yes, I have since done my advanced care planning, and we've had that kōrero with my mum, so we know what she wants to do, and I've shared my wishes with my children. My son didn't want to have that conversation. He just said, oh look, no, but my daughter, knows that cremation, that's fine for me. I can stay here down at Te Hotu Manawa. I don't whakapapa down here, but I used to work there, and my roots are here. So that's what a good death would look like for me, as long as my whānau are okay. And I think they'll be okay, because they know what my wishes are. Yeah, kia ora.
Well, thank you. Do you want to answer that question, or do you want to give us a bit of a rundown of what's led you to where you are now with your writing and what you offer?
I can do the two simultaneously, actually, because what I can say about advanced care planning is that my dad died seriously suddenly 3 years ago, just over 3 years ago, and they hadn't done an advanced care plan. But when Mum was thinking about, what hymns are we going to have at the funeral, they were churchgoers, she went to her Bible, and in the front of it was slipped a little piece of paper that said, if I die, look on the computer under this folder. And we did that, and there was a list of stuff, a full page of instructions, but starting with, if you're reading this, I've gone, and my funeral is about you, so you do what you want. However, if you want some advice, if you want some guidance, this, and this. So it was all laid out for us, but with the instructions that it was actually about us, not about him. So that was just amazing, because then we were able to just relax, and we still had lots of planning to do, but we knew exactly where we were heading with that. So that was amazing. My dad was a planner, clearly, and because of that, when he died, he left us books. He had traced our family history right back to the days before Culloden, and had written historical novels around that history. He'd also written his own autobiography, and he wrote a book about our time in Papua New Guinea, which is where I was born. Amongst countless other things, there were these writings. And if he had waited until he had slowed down, or couldn't garden anymore, or couldn't be playing bowls, all that information would be lost to us. Because he didn't, because he had this all planned, it's right at my fingertips. And since he died, it has grown in importance amazingly, because now this is also a tangible link to my father. So when I read these books, I can hear him speaking, and I can see him, and it's just magical. It's just amazing. When he was writing them, most of them I was interested in. When he wrote his autobiography, I kind of went, oh, really, Dad? Come on. I'm so pleased he did. And that's what I really want to impart, is that so many people I talk to say, my kids aren't interested, my family's not interested, but what they've forgotten to add to that sentence is they're not interested yet, because they will be. Once people have gone, that's when we really become keen to figure out what happened in our parents' lives, and it gives us roots. It gives us a sense of belonging, and we all need that. So that's why I started doing what I'm doing, because it's just so important to get people's memories down. And I'm not talking about the chronological factual stuff. Of course, that has to be there, but I'm talking about the colour and the feeling and how, what made people tick and all these things that happened in their lives, just exactly how they felt about that. It's those things that people, children, grandchildren want to know.
Beautiful. Thank you, Heather. All right, do you want to answer the same question and then weave in how it's led you on your journey?
Sure.
Yeah.
I would say a good death for me, the first word that popped into my head was choice. And alongside that, empowerment. And you can't have choice and you can't have empowerment unless you're having conversations about death now. And we live in a very death-phobic culture. People don't, I know my partner, when I first headed down this road of end-of-life doula, I would be talking about death a lot and planning and what does death look like for you. And that was very upsetting to him. He would shut down the conversation right away and say, I don't want to talk about this, it's too upsetting. But now it's been 2 or 3 years, and he's starting to want to have these conversations, and they sort of weave into our everyday conversations. And I feel that what I don't want in death for me, and death to me means home, and it doesn't for everybody, but I don't want a death that's a cascade effect where I end up in a hospital room. And I feel like that happens for a lot of people because they don't have conversations, they don't have planning, they don't anticipate, and one thing leads to another, and death becomes an emergency. When it's a natural death, it's a natural process. So I was led to end-of-life doula.
Do you want to explain what end-of-life doula is?
Sure. An end-of-life doula is someone, it's not a medical role, so it doesn't involve giving medications or giving advice, but it is a support role. So supporting a person who's dying or the family members of someone who is dying. And that could look like lots of different things, depending on the need of a family or an individual. But I was led to the role when my sister was diagnosed with terminal cancer at 42. And that was a 2-year journey for her to her death. That was a journey where there was not a lot of conversation or planning. She put up a wall and and now I understand that she wanted to live and she wanted to be seen as living. She didn't want to be seen as dying. So I get that. And it's different for everyone, but I was able to support her in her actual death and dying process. And that, to me, was one of the biggest promoters of my healing. It was something we collaborated in together. And I see you have birth doulas, and I'm kind of like a death doula. So birth doulas support a woman giving birth, and death is very much a process like birth. Yes.
Body knows how to die, right?
Yeah, your body knows just what to do. But I feel like in that death-phobic culture, we're so afraid of death that we sort of resist that natural process. Yep.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, should I pass?
Jane, do you want to answer the same?
You want me to? So I haven't thought a lot about this, having studied death for a long time. It is really important to be prepared. So I would say to anyone, write down what you want. And I have done that, and I have given it to my children. But I think, sometimes not to be absolute, because some things are a bit hard to organise. So to kind of, to actually be supportive of your family at the same time. I'd like to die at home. I'd like to stay at home. I'd like my children to feel comfortable with doing that, and with whoever's supporting them. It's like birth, death, each death is different, and it can be messy, it can be hard work. I was with my mother when she died. She had a stroke and went for, I think, more than 7 days palliative in a rest home. And we stayed with her, we did the vigil with her. My sisters lived close by, and by the time I got there, I stayed for the rest of the days, and they would alternate with me. And it was hard work, and for her it was, and it was a bit hard to watch at times. Like the breathing would be that chain stoke, it would go on, then then she might be peaceful, and then on it would, and it went on and on for a long time. and she died with her eyes open, and it was quite hard. I'd prefer to be a bit more peaceful than that, because that would be probably easier on my family. I would like a natural burial. Better promote that.
Where?
Well, it would have to be here now. I did have this thing about going back to Taranaki. I was born under Mount Taranaki. But I want to be buried naturally, and I've got my shroud from Aki Shrouds. It's quite beautiful, one-off, not that cheap, but specially made and supporting a local business, which feels good. So it's in my linen cupboard. And so, yeah, for a natural burial, you can't have anything that's not natural. So, it has to be wool, linen, cotton, silk. I don't like silk, so it won't be silk. And if you're using a coffin, not plastic glues and things like that. So, and you're buried. It's a lot shallower. So it's 1 metre down, where all the oxygenation is, so everything breaks down quickest. So I really like the idea of that, and I like being part of a forest that's going to be in perpetuity, whatever that word is, if I've pronounced that right.
Forever.
Yes, forever. So it was interesting when I did my PhD research. I did 18 interviews. Some were with Māori women and some were with tauiwi, talking about what felt positive and what didn't feel positive. And I think, for the after-death rituals, that participation, that it's authentic. Once upon a time, there used to be funerals and they didn't even name the person, they called them the parishioner. We've come a long way, but I think, death can be a beautiful experience. It's one of my Māori participants said, sad as it may be, and I think that sense of home and community is really important to me around death, and people being supported. So if you know someone who's a nurse or who can come in and help, or doula, or someone in the family who's comfortable just to do, because there are the practicalities of looking after the body, and it doesn't have to be that hard. There's also the paperwork, but it's not hard, but you need to be up for it, for natural death. So I guess, that's me. We've done the whole lot there, haven't we?
Yeah. Do you want to share how we would find you? How would we find a doula? Yeah, and then we'll jump back down to Diane Arohanui, and she can talk about
Sure.
like the public system.
Sweet, yeah. So end-of-life doula is it's an ancient role, but it's relatively new and up and coming in New Zealand. There's an association called ELDA, which is End-of-Life Doulas of Aotearoa, and they have a directory of doulas. They're nationwide.
But on our poster, it's a little one with the fantail. You see at the bottom there? Next to Elder Net.
Oh, yeah. Yep, that's the logo, yeah. So there's a directory on the ELDA website of doulas. I'm on there. There's also Doulas of Aotearoa as a website, and that includes all doulas, death doulas, and birth doulas as well. And I'm on there as well. So it's a funny kind of thing because people haven't heard of an end-of-life doula. So my job right now I see as education and kind of getting the word out. It's not a role that you train and you can step into a job, it's kind of because people don't know it's there, and also it's not integrated into our health system. So it all works on private contracts with families. And death is a costly matter, and that's one of the things Death Without Debt is about, educating people on how to bring that cost down. So most end-of-life doulas arrange a contract with a family, and they want to meet the family's needs. So it would be a sliding scale of payment, just depending on the services needed as well. Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you. All right, Di, give us a rundown of Arohanui and all the great things that you guys do for the community.
Kia ora, thank you. So, Arohanui Hospice has been here in Palmy since 1990s, but actually the idea came in the 80s. But our physical building, Heretaunga Street, has been there since the early 90s. So our service is like I said, a specialist palliative service. So we are supporting whānau patients with either cancer, and I think about 60% of the people that we look after have terminal cancer, and then about 40% of those people have end-stage heart disease or other non-cancer diseases. So we are a 6-bedded unit on Heretaunga Street, and we provide a service that is delivered in a te whare tapa whā way. So we're not only looking at the physical symptoms, we're looking at making sure your wairua is okay, so your spirit is okay, your whānau, your family are okay, and your social circumstances are okay, and also that your hinengaro, your mind, is okay. So when I say that, we not only, I think when we think about seeing a service, say our GP, we might be there for a particular physical symptom, that's a physical problem, whereas we want to make sure that we are looking at all aspects that make up you and your whānau. So our service is mostly in the community though. So even though we've got our 6-bedded unit up on Heretaunga Street, our nurses, our social workers, our doctors, our nurse practitioners, our spiritual support, our kaiawhina, our social workers, they will go see you at home. And the beds that we have on site, the beds that we have at Heretaunga Street are there for 2 reasons. So we don't offer respite at Arohanui Hospice, but we do, our social workers or our team will connect you with aged residential care if your whānau need a bit of a rest. So there are 2 reasons why someone might come into Arohanui Hospice, and the main reason is actually if we can't get on top of symptoms at home. So I think a lot of people think that Arohanui Hospice is a place to die, and absolutely people do die at Arohanui Hospice, but most of the time people are coming in, it's because we've tried everything at home. So say if someone had some uncontrolled pain, we'll try everything we can at home because home is the best place for them to be. And if that's not working, then we say, hey, how about you come in and have a stay with us? So if you do come for a stay with us, it's probably about a week to 9 days, and then we've got that whole team, that whole te whare tapa whā wrapped around you to get you as best as you can so you can go back home again. Because also the thing with Arohanui Hospice, our focus is quality of life, the best life that you can have of what you have left, and also symptom management. Those are our bread and butter, symptom management and quality of life. So we actually go up as far as Wauru, and down as far as Te Horo, and that's kind of where Mary Potter meet us. That's the hospice down in Wellington. Te Aomanga is also down there. And we go coast to coast, so we do cover quite a big area. And so most of the time when people are referred to us, it's come from the hospital, so specialists at the hospital or GP practices. But if someone comes under our service, that doesn't take them away from their GP. Their GP is still their lead carer. We're like a wraparound for that person and that whānau. So if things aren't going well, say if you've got pain or nausea or spiritual distress, you're gonna see us more. But if you are doing okay, you might not see us as much. And actually most people die at home these days. So actually, yeah, that's the place that most people choose to die or choose to be for their last days. And we, obviously if someone is nearing end of life, our services probably ramp up a bit. We'll get, the support of the district nurses, Hatohone St John's, also the GP team, and, we lean into other services like Whakapai Haora, the team at Whakapai Haora, the cancer coordinators. So we try and support you as much as you can to be in the place that you want to be and have the best life that you can have. Yeah. I'm just getting to know doulas, but some of our, I think there's two of our staff, Miranda's one of them, that have connections with them. But no, I think we need to, do some more mahi. Yeah.
Beautiful, thank you.
Oh, am I just holding this?
I'm going to ask is there anybody out here in our beautiful audience that would like to ask any questions at this point? Don't all jump at me at once. You don't have to talk into this if you don't want to. Do you want to?
I don't think so.
No?
I'm sorry, I can't remember your name, the lady in blue with the natural burials. Is it possible to not have a natural burial because they're not set up yet? To be buried in a shroud without a coffin?
Well, for natural burial, yeah.
But yeah, for natural burial, but for...
as long as we get them to allow that. We did talk about that with Mark Blacker, who set up the first one. There's no reason, but it's been the council. All cemeteries are basically, unless they're urapa, new ones being established and everything, it all has to be linked under the councils. So it is about what their regulations say, but there's no reason why you couldn't, in terms of legislation, there's no reason why you couldn't be buried in just a shroud. I know, like at the crematorium, they like you. They don't want it to be, they want you in a coffin, I think, because they don't want to be too close to death. But to me, my dog, we wrapped up and we buried her in my garden, and that picture of that feels just quite natural, and it breaks down quicker. So, I'm very keen to try and make sure that that is an option in terms of burial and the non-natural burial. Certain cultures do. So it is set up, I think, is it?
But it's not currently set up, so
Oh, well, yes, for some cultures they are. So,
here in Palmerston
for some cultures here in Palmerston North. So if you really made a stand about it, I would think you should be able to. You'd have to be. I know you might be better. Maybe speaking to this one.
It's a little bit iffy. So for cremation, I think for cremation, I think the regulation is that you're meant to be on a backboard, and that the deceased is to be shrouded, and then also have a couple of securing straps to hold everything all nicely together. Muslims, for example, are buried in just a shroud, and that's totally acceptable. When you do that paperwork, you do have to sign whether it's for religious purposes or not. You get what I'm saying? Like if you did stamp your feet, you could probably.
Religious?
I would argue yes, yeah. But it's
your environmental spiritual beliefs.
Yeah.
buried in a shroud listening to you. And
Yeah.
in a normal plot.
Yes, yeah. You would just.
So the council would be the ones to...
Yeah. Look, so the cemetery administration, Lady Rachel, she's pretty lovely. They're pretty. Yeah. Yeah. It's still subjective. Yeah, you get what I'm saying. So it's we're still signing to say that is what it is. Yeah.
I think if be buried in a shroud in a Palmerston North cemetery, then anyone should be able to. And there is you can quote the Human Rights Act, because this is something that came up with Mark Blacker when we had a public meeting. It's how we started off our natural burial Manawatū nearly 2 years ago. And he was saying in the human you have to respect your spiritual and something else beliefs. I've got it written down somewhere. So if you said this is, really important to me for my environmental beliefs, and my spiritual beliefs, then you should human rights. Do you know more about the Human Rights Act thing?
No, but I should probably read up on that. I'm going to make my way back out into the crowd. Are there any other questions? No pressure. Yeah. Yeah, there's been instances where I'm sure we can still practice like an eco or a natural burial, but still in council, in our grounds that we already have, because the option's not there yet. Did we go over that? Do you want to? Might be a little bit closer, or the steps closer to what's happening next week, or?
Well, to me, embalming is a choice. You don't have to be embalmed, so that's natural not to be embalmed. There is one form of embalming called enigma, which is more natural, and I know Mark Blackham said in the natural burial grounds they would rather you didn't have any embalming, but if you had to have something that would be seen as acceptable. You could do everything that a natural burial would do, but be buried in the cemetery, you'd be deeper. You'd be deeper down. Yeah, so you would not go back to the earth as quickly. But yeah, a board or something with the shroud. Some shrouds come with where you can slip a board through the back of it, I think. But yeah, if you need some sort of board to be able to carry and lower. But you would need people looking after you who'd be prepared to do that for you and advocate, and not be pushed around, I would imagine. But talking to someone beforehand, if you talk the cemetery sets and stuff beforehand and keep your networks going, then they'll know what to expect. Being prepared is always a good approach.
Can I just say, I don't really need the mic, but I just wanted to say that I have noticed that more people are asking about natural funerals. There's more and more, or even not having a funeral director and things like that. Yeah. So we are seeing more of that. Actually, I do have a really beautiful story to tell you about one of the most beautiful experiences I've had with my uncle who died 4 years ago, and so our urupa is at Parihaka. One of our urupa is at Parihaka. I'm just looking at you because you're from Taranaki, and we actually had a beautiful tangi for him, and he was completely wrapped in harakeke. So there was like a beautiful harakeke mat, and so he lay in the mat, and we had him surrounded with kawakawa, and then wrapped him up, and my whānau, I wasn't involved in the weaving. I can't weave. I wasn't involved in that, but it had already been pre-done. The mats had been done, and I think some things were done after they found out my uncle had passed away, had died. But the most beautiful vision, seeing my uncle wrapped up in harakeke, and then even just to do the last bits of it was like a lovely weaved rope which tied them all, and then yes, we carried him on. It was like a board made out of wood. Like, I guess it kind of looked a little bit like a ladder, and with my uncle on the top of as we took him down to the urupa, and of course it's the longest walk to the urupa because when you have a tangi up at Parihaka, it's quite a bit of a walking around haringa journey down to the urupa, but that was the most beautiful the most beautiful thing to see my uncle, and that was his wish. That was what he wanted to have, so we were just so pleased we could do that for him. But yeah, absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, the practicalities, like, it's some call it a beer, don't they, B-I-E-R, to carry the body, but the practicalities of okay, so how do you carry them, what do? You do need to think about these things. And I'd kind of been picturing, I've seen the beers that you can buy, and I thought, well, Men's Shed might be able to make one, but they didn't seem that keen. But a ladder as an image of what it could be. I was thinking you could have sort of bits of manuka somehow,
Woven together.
But a ladder, I guess you would, it doesn't sound too hard to make, does it?
Just to add to that, I know in some other parts of the country, the organisation called University of the Third Age, or U3A for short, some of them have, I know from where I come from Rotorua, there is the within the group there, they do have a coffin club that they make coffins and other kind of related. So they could probably make something like a lightweight natural but substantial bodyboard type thing to carry a shrouded body. Yeah.
Yeah, there are coffin clubs around the country, but the Men's Shed here have helped people make their own coffin, but they don't have much storage, but they make the little coffins that they give to the funeral directors for babies.
And I don't know a funeral director that charges for any of those services relating to kids, okay? So I don't want anyone thinking that a funeral director is profiting off of, donated goods or anything like that. I wanted to put another question back to you, and because we are seeing this rise in people wanting more natural options and also DIY options, and we're being budget conscious, can we hope in the future that maybe those costs of natural burials might come down because they are more expensive?
Yes, if you go around the different cemeteries that have the natural burial option, a number of them are a little bit more expensive than just ordinary burial, but in Taupo, I think it was, it's a little bit cheaper. We would love to see it being really a lot cheaper because it's better for the environment, so encouraging people to do it, because to me that makes sense, but you've got to get past the whole kind of capitalist and system that we've got. But yeah, it doesn't have to cost much. There's the paperwork that you need, so there's a few costs there. There's some sort of container to make or have, for the body, and keeping the body cold. People have used dry ice, they have used frozen bottles. Apparently salt water freezes for longer or something, but that is a bit damp for keeping the body cold. But if you're hands-on, then and you don't really want to mix death with food. That's the other thing. And in some parts of the country, they have got a lot of resources, like Whakatane have the Funeral Guides Collective, and they're doing amazing stuff there. So it's a not-for-profit funeral service started up from the community, and they have special freezers. They have these cooler pads that they've brought in from the Netherlands, and they do use Techni Ice too, and what they call the Manaki mats for babies, which I think is Techni Ice, isn't it? I haven't actually seen Techni Ice, I just know you can buy it, and I haven't actually seen it work, so it's always a bit hard when you haven't done it yourself. But it doesn't have to be expensive, and my background is social work, and I think you can have a beautiful funeral that doesn't have to cost a lot of money, and I think that making it personal, making it special. But a lot of people who are dying, and in Whakatane, when they started up the work there, is because their members, their elders of Eastern Bay's community, and a lot of them were Māori, were concerned about cost to whānau, and they really wanted to actually find ways to do things that weren't so expensive. So I think that's definitely, funeral without debt is, death without debt is really into that too, isn't it?
Mention the funeral guide training that Whakatane, Eastern Bay of Plenty, are establishing too. There was a beautiful woman up there, I can't remember her name, but she lost her husband very suddenly and very young, with a young family, and she vowed and declared that she didn't want any other whānau to experience that. And so now they've created iwi-based training, funeral guides, and it includes kind of doula, holding space, peaceful presence, and the practical factors of all the paperwork
We should
and
acknowledge Ruth
everything.
Gertson, who started all that work, and she's actually
Yeah, she's a dynamo, isn't she, really? She is very passionate about following that all through now. But yeah.
It was very interesting too, because Moi Turoa, is it? Used to live here. He went, he's in Whakatane, and he had a partner who was from the Netherlands, and so he went over there as a Māori man, very hands-on obviously, saw what they were doing over there with the cooler pads, and he came back and thought, oh, we need to do this here. So he actually had this big kind of metal box thing made, which was refrigerated, and it had a plate on top, and it was quite amazing because I saw like a coffin sitting on it. The coolness, the cold would go right up, and so he had one of these made, and I think it was based at Te Kaha Health Centre. So it was being used by marae, and they're quite isolated there, like really expensive if you go into a funeral director and coming back again. And so they were using this, they started off calling them atamira something. The names keep changing of what they're calling it. But yeah, quite amazing. It's just exactly what we need, and he was someone who got some technical person to make one, but now they're trying to bring them in from the Netherlands. But yeah, as I said, they're really, really expensive. But if you know anyone who's clever with refrigeration, sort of a metal box, it needs to have vents down the side and a sort of a plate on top somehow that will keep the coolness. But yeah, that one would take a couple of people to carry it, and it was, quite big.
All right. I'll leave it in your capable hands. I'm going to ask you, is there something that's been really, really memorable for you through your journey that's leading us here today? Through your doulaing work, through Death Without Debt, through your work with the Ashes community. Is it what's probably the most memorable point of that so far?
Well, that's a big question.
That's a big question, sorry. No pressure.
I really love seeing the interest and the activism that's happening in this space, to see people turning up and wanting to talk about death and seeing that culture change. I really feel like even in the 2 years that I've been doing this, I've seen so much action around this, so many conversations on the radio, on the TV, this panel here, the Dying Matters Week. I think there is something happening. I think we are reaching a culture change, and part of that is driven by economics. People are feeling the pinch, and they cannot be paying $10,000 for a funeral, so they're being forced to think about it and talk about it. And for Pākehā in particular, we haven't done death well, and so this is pushing us to do something different. But I see the value in just my experience with my sister and my experience with my dad, in having that moment of death as it's our portal. It's when you come into the world, we talk so much about birth plans and what we want it to be like when we have our babies, and we're all going to die, 100%. We don't know if we're going to get married, but we plan for that. But death, we need to plan for it, and it's a really spectacular, sacred moment, and it needs to be honored, and people need to be supported in that.
Beautiful, thank you. All right. Most memorable? Have you got a memorable moment throughout where you pivoted to doing what you do and offering your service to where we are now?
Obviously, apart from my father's death, which was a really pivotal change, I nursed my grandmother through her death as well, and she I remember flying down. She was in Blenheim Arrest Home, and I flew down there with my sister because we knew her end was imminent. So we went down to say goodbye, and as we came back, both of us looked at each other, my sister and I looked at each other and said someone needs to be with her at night time, because she was in a medical rest home. She could not go to hospice. Hospice was taking care of her beautifully, but there was nobody with her overnight. My parents were, she was 98, my parents were elderly as well by then, so they were there, but they couldn't do the overnights. So as I was the only one of her 13 grandchildren who was really at that point able to drop everything and go, because I could work remotely, I thought that's fine. The excuse me, the carers had said she slept well, so that wasn't a problem, and I can sleep anywhere. So we decided that I'd go down and I would spend my nights in the lazy boy chair in her room, and I could work during the day. What I found was that she didn't sleep well. She was just unable to push her buzzer. And so that understanding that how much she needed, that our gut instinct, so definitely your gut instinct should be listened to, because our gut instinct was that she needed someone during the night, and she certainly did. My grandmother was always very stoic, and she wasn't dying of anything specifically. She was just old and her body was giving up, but not quickly, it would seem, because what was an imminent death lasted another 4.5 weeks, and she went without food, water and oxygen for almost 3 of those weeks. Nothing. And her body just did not want to, her heart would not stop beating. But that was an incredible time for me. It was hard. It was hard to see my grandmother like that, but it was just so rewarding and just so intimate, that space that I had. My siblings were going, oh, I'm sorry that you're having to do this, and actually it was just the biggest privilege to spend that time with her, and those hours during the night when she was awake, to be able to be with her and talk to her and massage her feet, and it was just amazing. And then there were just the funniest stories too, because she was actually in a dementia wing, so there were all the dementia patients wandering up and down. The guy next door to her was convinced that Hitler was coming every night and was making it very clear that everybody should lock their doors, and her childhood friend, my grandmother's childhood friend, was in the room across the hall from her, and she had dementia and had a pressure pad on the floor, but was clever enough to actually overstep that. And I had nodded off one night and woke up suddenly with the feeling that there was somebody there, and there was. Mavis, who was a big woman, was getting into bed with my grandmother, who was no longer a big woman, and I couldn't reach the buzzer and hold Mavis back at the same time. So there was, I could write a book about what I saw and heard in that month that I spent with my grandmother. But that was a pivotal time for me, thinking that how important it is. This whole dying process is so important, to have a plan and to demystify it and make it normal. Not, so many of us are scared to talk about it, and I have been in my life, and it's incredibly empowering to actually come to the point where you go, actually, it's not to be frightened. It's not something to be frightened about. It is, and frightened or not, it's going to happen. So let's get prepared and actually just make those deaths, make the leaving this earth as wonderful as it possibly can be.
Beautiful. Di, do you want to answer in a constructive way maybe what a misconception is about Arohanui or hospice in general? Or
Yeah.
maybe even if it's like a positive misconception, which is further than that, I don't know. Does that resonate? Can you?
Yeah, I think probably the biggest misconception of Arohanui Hospice is that it is a place to die. People think that hospice is a building, but actually it's not just a building. It's actually a way of being and doing and supporting whānau. So I think that would definitely when people think of Arohanui Hospice and, you know, when people come under our books, I think it is a scary thing because they think straight away that it is that place. But then once they come into our building, and not everyone does come to our building because, like I said, most of the work that we do, most of the mahi we do is in the community. They actually see that it is a beautiful space, and actually just something positive is that when we try and discharge people, I mean, we don't often discharge people from our service, but you know, sometimes people get a prognosis and no one really, you know, has a crystal ball. And, you know, we might discharge them also because they might not be symptomatic or might not have any specialist palliative concerns. So they don't really need us and we'll discharge them, and then they'll be like, oh, no, and then they don't want to be discharged. So they want to stay on our books, so that's an interesting but also a positive thing that I've seen over the years. So I've been at Arohanui Hospice for 8 years now, but I think I think what we need to be doing is, like Heather was just talking about, we need to be demystifying it, and so that's why these sorts of weeks are so important, and having those conversations about what we would want for ourselves for end of life, because we also don't know when we're going to die. We don't know. We can never plan when we're going to die, but we can plan and be ready for it. And I'll just do a little plug about we do have some advanced care planning workshops coming up at Arohanui Hospice. I do have the dates in my phone, but if you follow our Facebook page or our Instagram page, there's some dates there. But like I said, I'll have a look at my phone in a moment and tell you. Because we just need to start having those conversations. Because when I think about ACP as well, advanced care planning, it's not so much having a physical document, it is about getting those conversations started. And like I said, when I shared what I wanted for my post-death or my funeral with my children, you know, my son, he was probably 17 at the time, was like, oh, no, I don't, like, he just didn't want me to have that conversation with him. But like my daughter, who's the oldest, she was like, okay, yeah. And then that also meant that I knew if something happened to me, I died, that just took a bit of weight off her shoulders, you know, because she kind of knew what my wishes were. So, you know, I don't know if it's because she was the oldest child that she was just like, that, yep, okay, that's good, Mum. So again, just having those korero and just normalising talking about death and dying. So, and that's one way I think that we need that we can demystify what hospice is. It's not just a building that people go to die. It's about quality of life. It's about living your best life and the time that you have left. Yeah. Yes. I would absolutely encourage people to watch Hospice Heroes. So that is focused on Tōtara Hospice, which is up in South Auckland. Absolutely a beautiful hospice. I've visited that hospice, but also it's a really good way to, I guess, normalise and for people to have an understanding of what hospices are like, because I think, again, people think, well, I don't know what people think, but before I worked there, do you know actually what I thought before I worked there, because I worked at Whakapai Haora, I was one of the nurses there, I thought, oh gosh, those people must all be sad, those nurses and those doctors, they must just all be really sad. But no, that it's, I mean, again, it's, we can't, you know, we have to be in a space where we, you know, we've got a settled way to it, and our mode is very toe and settled, because we are supporting people. But actually there's a lot of laughing and there's a lot of happiness and a lot of joy at Arohanui Hospice. So that was my I was I was a nurse not working there, and I thought, gosh, that must be a really sad place. I mean, don't get me wrong, it is definitely very, very sad, but we're also celebrating people's lives and helping them live the best life that they can. Yeah.
Right, we're going to go to Bell next.
Excuse me, just before I move on, just a quick question. Does the hospice here have
Yeah, that's a really good question. Sorry, is that too close? We look after around about 1,000 people a year on our books at a time. And so usually people get referred to us by their GP or a specialist at the hospital. Say if they don't have any further treatment, that's when the oncology team or their team might refer them to Arohanui Hospice. And so it does, yeah, so usually a referral will come through a health a doctor or a nurse practitioner, or we have had referrals from nurses in the community. So if I think about GP practices, I would call that primary palliative care, where we would be generalist palliative care, where we're specialist palliative care. So not everyone that has end-stage disease or terminal cancer is under our books. So their GP or their specialist will refer them to us if they have if they're symptomatic. So if someone has advanced cancer and they are feeling that they're managing and their pain's managed and they don't have nausea and they're okay, they're managing okay, their GP might not refer them to us. But if they had pain or there were social whānau complexities going on, then their GP or the hospital or another service may refer them to us. Does that answer your question?
And you have enough, I'm just thinking about the shortages in the health.
Yeah.
Do you have the capabilities to deal with the number of referrals that come through?
Yes, but we're definitely, like all health services, under the pump. Yep. So just the same as Te Whatu Ora. And I know that there's been a lot of kind of kōrero in the community. I think I read on a Facebook page that someone thought that we were closing down no. So absolutely, we do worry about things like funding, and because actually 50% of our funding comes from the government and the other 50% is from the community. So we have to fundraise around about $4 million, I think that's about that amount, to offer a free service to the community. So it would just be in line with Te Whatu Ora with the pressures of staffing and things, because we are seeing more people.
We possibly haven't developed it. Do you want to give us a talk or your thoughts on intergenerational, cafe we talk about, including the kids and even just with that pre-planning? Do you have some ideas of maybe how we can branch it out a bit further than just talks in our own homes?
So my plan is, excuse me, my plan is in my space. So I'm in kaumātua's homes quite regularly, and they are intergenerational most of the time. So we have kaumātua, their children, their grandchildren, sometimes their great-grandchildren, all in the one home. I was raised by my grandmother, who is now 99, so she was 99 on Thursday. So an open conversation with her was always just what it was. She always spoke about life, death. She lost her husband very young, so we've spent a whole long time of my life talking about what she wanted and having those conversations. So it was never a big problem for me, and it was never an issue just to talk about death as it comes. And so my plan for the future is that all households and all peoples can just talk about it in a natural way, that it doesn't have to be a set time and place to have those conversations, that if you have your advanced care plan sitting on your table, your coffee table in your lounge, and you have visitors who have small children who ask, what is this? Well, this is what I want, and I love this song, and just having those natural conversations with our tamariki around that death is natural, it is normal, and that they should never ever be afraid of it, that we will all lose someone we love very precious to us, and we do move on, we never forget, but we do have to continue to live for the ones that we have here. And if we teach our children that when they're very young, and I think going through primary school, college, when they get to adulthood and they are losing parents, then that discussion is just natural. That it is just there. Oh, I know Mum's favourite song because we've spoken about that and I've sung with her and she loves karaoke and, you know, all of these types of things, and she hates chicken. You know, like those types of conversations that it's not even about death. It's really just about who is my mum, who is my grandmother, what is she like? And if we're not the ones having those conversations, who will? If we don't know our loved ones better than anybody else in the room, then nobody will know them. And how do we remember them if we're not always having those conversations? Because that's the stuff we take with us when they're gone. The memories of eating paua, you know, all of those types of things. Those memories are the ones that we will take on for the future. And if we're not doing that with our children, instead of, oh, they're going to daycare and they're this, that and the other thing, maybe they want to go and sit at Nana's for a couple of hours. She might just sit there and knit with them, or she, you know, like, we're not doing that because we were living such busy lives. Like we're working 40 hours a week, we're this. And when are we stopping just to say, let's just stop for a minute and let's just spend some time learning about each other and what we want, and writing our memoirs or getting someone to write them, you know, and doing those things that we will be remembered for, because when we're gone, that's the stuff people remember. So yeah, so that's my plan anyway.
Just added to that, we have these conversations all the time, and we don't specifically have them around our granddaughter, my partner and I are raising our granddaughter, and she's 9. But That's Entertainment by The Jam came on the radio the other day, and Hazel said, oh, that's the song you're having for your funeral, eh, Wolfie? That's my partner. Because that's her favourite song, and she's always said, I'm having that for my funeral. So there's that conversation, but because we've always discussed stuff like that within her earshot, it's had a trickle effect. She was at her cousin's place the other day, and they don't talk about stuff like that. And she did upset her cousin a lot because, this was a while ago, they had a rented home, and Hazel has already decided that when Wolfie and I die, she's going to have the house. Someone did ask, what about her dad and her auntie, my children? And she said, well, they've left home, so they don't need it. Quite logical. Yep. But she went to her cousin's place, and she just said, oh, do you know that when your mum dies, you won't be able to live here anymore because you don't own this house? Little bit blunt. But what that did was start a conversation in that house as well. Sure. So now they had started talking about what happens when, you know. So it's really, really important that we just chat about stuff.
Can I just say one thing?
There must be something in the water with 9-year-olds at the minute.
So right. I just wanted to say, following on to all of that talking about dying actually informs and enriches our living. That's something that, that's key.
Yeah, I echo that, and the need for pre-planning. If you can then document those conversations, you're really winning those conversations. That's not to say to push people beyond what they're comfortable with, but yeah, just solidifying that. Down to you, Ray.
Wonderful conversations. It's very kind of inspirational, really, to hear this, and I kind of really feel hope for the future and our communities and society as a whole around death and dying. But in hearing stories about families, it's very wonderful, but there's a lot of people in our world that don't have families, and I'm kind of part of that other area where people who are either on our own or live alone, and people who don't have children. So it's a growing phenomena, and I think an awareness of that is really, really important. In our communities, there's still a lot of people who are living alone, who die alone, who die maybe in their home. There's people who do get taken to care, to hospitals or to rest homes and still are alone. And we're not good as humans at reaching out to people. We seem to be so busy, and if someone's right in our face, we'll have conversations with them, but if it requires effort to actually go and knock on a door or smile at someone walking down the street, we're not too good at that as a whole. And I think just increasing that awareness is what I kind of am trying to do, I guess, and having conversations with people about that as much as I can, just to increase that awareness. We're all, what's life about? Te whare tapa whā, kind of, the wairua, that spirituality is equal to all the other pillars of te whare tapa whā, and that connection. We're all in this life together. Let's make the best of it and let's help each other. It's kind of where
Age Concern is a wonderful organisation. Just if there's any way of, if anyone wants to know how they can perhaps reach out to other people, if you visit for Age Concern, an hour a week.
My brain was tuning over, and so other than the awareness, how else can we try and support those people?
Yeah,
So we've got individuals aging, and it's like, do we just hope that they're connected to an agency?
Community.
Yeah, I think it's really, we're so insular. We're just so profoundly caught up in our own stuff and within our family. But I just think we just don't think community. We don't think neighbourhood. I was talking to someone the other day who lives in a beautiful cul-de-sac, and she said, I don't know the other people in the cul-de-sac, and I think that's more the norm, unfortunately. And I think somehow we've got to make that effort, and I don't know how that looks, but at a personal level, I think every little bit that we individually do helps. And there has to be a ripple of that. So, yeah, go for it. Be free to talk.
Ray, you've just echoed what I'm thinking as well. That's, there's through this whole week of Dying Matters and covering different aspects like death and dying and wills and enduring powers of attorney and advanced care plans, it's good to be prepared, but for the ones who are maybe in this life on their own, maybe they don't have a partner, they don't have children, they don't have close family or extended family or family who sort of care enough, and it's a good thing to be, be prepared. But if you want to prepare and you don't have, say, someone, say you're setting up advanced care plans or enduring powers of attorney, and you don't have anyone in your life that would be willing or that you would trust enough to act in your best interests and have your best interests at heart, is there anything else, any kind of organisation or person-wise that kind of involvement could be outsourced to? I remember at the enduring power of attorney talk, I asked, there's trust, there's trustee societies like Public Trust and Perpetual Guardian that, I don't know if it was Perpetual Guardian, but Public Trust, they can take care of like a property and financial enduring power of attorney, but for health and welfare, there's no equivalent. So I don't know. There is end of life death doulas to take sort of someone and family around them on their sort of on their journey, sort of leading up to death and during and after. But I'm just wondering, is there maybe an equivalent, or is there maybe a space for maybe to think about an equivalent to be created within our communities to take care of those for people that they want to be prepared as much as possible, but they don't really have the resources, or they don't have the people, or.
I have heard of social workers taking on this role when there hasn't been anybody, or someone working in a disability group who's set up to make that commitment for that role. So it does happen. I was also going to add on to what Ray was saying. I mean, families can have disagreement too about what happens after death, so that's really important to think about, and like who you choose as executors of your will, and you should do a will and make sure your executives of your will know what you want and that they will do that, and then know where the information is about your death and what you want, so that they know that they have the authority to do what you want. That can be quite important as well.
I just want to have just a little thought again about where people die. People dying in their homes, and it's a choice, and that's fabulous. And if people have got homes to die in, that they can stay there and receive care, that's cool. I had an experience with my own mother where she was actually in Somerset in an apartment, and then she could not stay there, and we were transitioning her into the care home. And she was so unhappy about all of that. And she became unwell into hospital, and she stayed in hospital. They did ask us if she would like to go home. And I went, she has no home, Her apartment probably would have been her home, but certainly in the care centre she did not want to go back there. And the hospital was very accommodating of that. And really it's about making the best. I think hospital's seen as in a kind of a clinical negative kind of frame, but really it's the essence of the care that you receive. And we ended in the Star 2 palliative care area. The team kind of was available to us. So really, dying at home is not always going to be an option for people. So it's not too bad if you do end up in hospital. At least you're somewhere rather than under a bridge or in a park kind of somewhere. So or somewhere where you've got a lot of disharmony. That would be probably the worst case scenario. So yeah, thank you. Sorry.
No, don't be sorry. Oh, yep. Down we go.
With the Opal team that I work with, we do have social workers that go into people's homes. So when you're referred through to us as being frail or having had falls, there's a little bit of a criteria, as we know. The social worker may go in and there may be some whānau dynamics or something like that they have to work through. We do talk about EPOAs and wills and what's happening for whānau. And we do also have whānau that are referred to us from their GP who have no person, no friends, no anything. They have outlived every single person that they ever knew. And it can be very uncomfortable to be in a space like that when you know that in your heart is just breaking, but you can't do anything. So part of my job and some of our social workers' spaces is to engage them back into community. So invite them along to different activities, get them back into engaging with different parts of what they used to do, whether that be attending dance or music or arts or whatever that is. So part of my role there is to have conversations with these whānau around what did you used to do, what were your hobbies, what did you love, prior to you now being stuck in your home, and then encouraging them to participate again in society. And with that participation then comes engaging with people again and building friendships again. And we've had a few wonderful outcomes where we've had Age Concern come in and they've had a companion walker and things like that. They've now got them back out into community. They are now joined groups again, and they've built friendships again. So, you know, if we don't have anything to look forward to, then why would we get up in the morning? So if we don't have a conversation with someone over a coffee in a cafe somewhere, or someone comes and visits you, then what's the point? So, you know, that's sort of how I get there and they're like, oh, I might as well just die. I've got nothing. And I was like, well, you're still here and you're still kicking about, so, you know, let's get you back into doing something. And then I'll take you along and let's get in my little Suzuki Swift and let's go somewhere and pop your walker in the back. And we've been to yoga and we've been to a whole bunch of things. So knowing someone or talking to your GP around, hey, I've fallen over a couple of times now, I'm really anxious, so I've stopped going to all my groups and I've stopped doing anything, and now no one's talking to me because they've all got lives. Talk to your GP or talk to your whānau or talk to whoever you need to talk to about, can someone just take me out for an activity, because I want to be part of society, because that's what we do. And we've seen some wonderful outcomes. We are only an 8-week service in our Opal team, which is really sad. A lot of our kaumātua are like, oh, you're leaving already, but we just started going out places. But, you know, that's the way of it. There are a few kaumātua who I'll hang on to for dear life, and although they have been discharged from our service, I'm going, no. I'm still picking them up for coffee because the convos are great. So, you know, they might not have a family member, and I have a couple on my books now that I've had for the whole 3 years that I've been in this role, that I still pick up weekly and take them to do shopping because they need new winter clothes and, you know, all those sorts of things. But yeah, it is just make contact, even if it's walk outside your driveway and knock on your neighbour's door who you see pottering in their garden and just say, hey, you want to come for coffee? You know, and maybe build up a friendship in your cul-de-sac or your little units and things like that, because everyone's feeling the same. And I'm not just saying old people, I'm not just saying elderly, you know, I'm only in my 40s, I feel the same way. That we get stuck in our day-to-day lives for whatever reason with our whānaus, and we don't see the bigger picture. And I think we all need to step outside into the communities again and volunteer and be part of those spaces so that people that are lonely have someone to talk to. Yeah.
Beautiful whakaro. I just wanted to give you the dates while I have them on my phone for our ACP, our Advanced Care Planning kōrero. So they are at 1 Heretaunga Street, which is Arohanui Hospice, and the dates are, so it's an hour long, Monday the 13th of October at 10:30 a.m, Monday the 10th of November at 10:30 a.m, and Monday the 15th, I should put my glasses on, of December at 10:30, and you don't need to register, you can just show up at 1 Heretaunga Street.
So, could I just get you to just run through those dates and times again?
Yes, of course. I'll put my glasses on, that would be... That's so much better. So Monday the 13th of October, 10:30 a.m. Monday the 10th of November at 10:30 a.m. And Monday the 15th of December at 10:30. And the aim of this is to encourage proactive health planning, provide practical resources and information, and support individuals and whānau to make informed decisions about their future care.
There'll be a bunch of community ones.
Yes, there'll be a bunch of community ones as well. I don't have those dates right now, but those are the ones that I have on there.
Have we got any other questions, thoughts, feelings, comments from our audience? Otherwise, we'll head towards starting to wrap up. Yeah, Deb?
Suzanne, you mentioned something that you were like something coming up in the issue, but we can't quite what it was.
Yep.
Could you just go there?
So that is a Death Without Debt workshop, Yep, and that, I believe it's the 8th of November, and it's probably going to run 10:30 in the morning to 3 p.m. And you'll be able to find information about that on the Recap website. Recap.
Which is what, recap.co.nz or org?
Maybe .org, I'm not sure. Yeah, but if you just Google Recap and Asher's, you should be able to find it, yeah. One thing I was thinking as we're talking about, everything everyone has said is so valuable and important, and I'm looking around and we're all women, and I'm like, this is a common denominator too among doulas, that emotional support work and emotional labor is undervalued and underpaid in our society, but it's so important. It's what makes everything, it's the glue. Yeah.
All right, you can start us off there. And this is to, oh, sorry.
Everyone keeps talking about the advanced care plan. Is that a booklet? Do you buy it?
Do you want to
make your own?
There are heaps of resources to make advanced care plans. Yeah, so if you Google that too, there are things you can download. They'll mail them to you, and I'm sure if you attend one there, they'll give you booklets and things that as a guide to walk you through different questions to make you think. It's not something, an advanced care plan isn't something you sit down in an afternoon and fill out. It's something you return to again and again, and sort of it's an evolving process. But a workshop like that would get you started. Yeah. Did you?
Because I've got a male friend who is in New Zealand completely alone. Almost died last year, very suddenly. It was only kind of me and another friend that kind of were involved in his rehabilitation. But he won't talk about it, so if there was a plan, I can give it to him to say, fill out anything.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Any, like a piece of paper, because he won't talk about it to me, but at least it would give him things to think about.
Yeah, a structure. Yeah, something to start with.
You can send away for the booklets, can't you, from the...
myacp.org.nz.
From the who?
myacp.org.nz is the website. I'll scribble it down for you. I've got one book I can give you, but I've only got, did you find one? Hey, there we go. I know, I've got the really extensive Māori ones. They're
He's not Chinese. But I mean, the hospital was ringing us and saying things like, would you want a priest? Because theoretically he's Catholic. And nobody knew anything. It's scary. But maybe if he had that just on, I'll just leave it.
Be aware that sometimes it's a big step from reading it to actually filling it in.
But at least it would make him.
Yeah.
You can do it with them, with having conversations about it.
Yeah.
It's really important. Put the
Because
words
there
in
are
there.
so many questions.
there is, yeah. Lots of questions.
Or to give us a brief rundown on how you operate as an independent funeral director, as opposed to, how do you
Look, it's basically the same, except there are a lot of avenues. So, like almost what some that we're also preaching in other spaces, that would be what family are looking to do hands-on. I would still be like your funeral director that would help you in doing those things that we can do ourselves, which would then heavily reduce the costs. But if we wanted services like embalming, I contract back to Litchway where we can utilise just that one part, and then we can be back on our way again, adhering to whatever the wishes are of the family and the deceased. And yeah, so it's pretty similar.
So do you have a professional fee for each one, or that
Yeah.
varies depending on what they want?
Varies, yeah, it varies depending on services. So that fee is trying to encapsulate the work that I'm foreseeing would need to be done. But look, truth is, and this is all throughout the profession, my profession, other funeral directors, I've got some families from 2 years ago that I'm still holding their hands for walking through a coroner process inquiry. and I will continue to do that with them. That's way out of my realms of what I do as a funeral director, and good, obviously there's no way in heck that I'm charging for that either. Helping folks settle estates when there's no money and there's no will, and but there might still be a small portion locked in KiwiSaver, or I've taken on those, and basically the professional service fee will never, it can never encapsulate that.
What most funeral directors would do.
Heck yes. I used to get in trouble for even having like my sweet little widowers turn up for a cup of tea on a Friday, and it echoes what Mel's saying about keeping our community connections. I was finding that I would have these sweet old people, and I was their last remaining connection to their spouse. And they want to come along and have a yak, and then I'm being scorned at by my boss because I'm on business time, So anyway, that was one of the first things I did. There's like a very small little gang of them, so I went straight to their houses and I was like, we can have all the cups of tea you want now. And I've picked up a few more along the way, but it's, that's actually probably the biggest difference in my job. So it's not just being able to reduce that price, but I can keep that connection. I can do things like this, right? I can start to kind of carve away at my spot in the community and the outreach and whatever that is.
So you're a bit like a broker with benefits.
Little bit, yes, I was trying to even describe it to a family. It's like if you get like a plumber, like your hot water cylinder's broken, you need a hot water cylinder. You know that there's a whole bunch of other little bits and pieces that go along with that hot water cylinder, and you've got to pay for the tradie to come out and do all the things. You know what I mean? They're doing the hot water cylinder. They've got all the other bits, and my van has all my stuff in it, and I'm a little bit like a tradie. Like it's, I just wear a nice dress. That's all. Hey, yeah.
So how do you pick a good funeral director?
Hey, look, that's just it. I would say it's subjective, and most people are just calling whatever one that they think is it, and sometimes you are not going to get somebody who's personable to you. Yeah. All of them offer pre-arrangements. Most of them should be no obligation, no charge. Okay. Call them, see if you can go do a sit down with them, pick up the vibe, yeah?
I guess that's why you pre-plan them.
Exactly.
Yeah. Because I remember at another meeting I've been to, something that really stuck with me was like, when somebody you're caring for, somebody you love dies, don't panic.
Yeah.
Don't
Yes.
rush into
Yes.
doing
The worst has literally
stuff.
happened.
Really stuff.
Yeah.
You automatically think, right,
Got to do it in 3 days.
And call the funeral director and get them taken away.
In New Zealand, we have really quick funerals. I think we're one of the only countries in the world that have people dead and buried within 3 days. It doesn't, it's weeks and weeks in other countries, Western countries in the world. In the UK, you're looking at 3 weeks. So there's that, but there's also a lot more red tape to go through. You can't do things directly with funeral directors. You've got to go through councils and all sorts of things like that too. So it's really tricky. But my dad, we were waiting for brothers to come from overseas, and it was tricky. So we were 2 weeks, and people go, oh, really? But that's perfectly normal everywhere else. We don't need to rush into things.
And you just get one shot of it.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. I should have left the mic in your hand. Are there any more before we actually close out? Any more questions, thoughts, feelings? Go on, ask.
I think the week's been absolutely excellent.
It's been phenomenal, hasn't it?
Yeah.
I'm really proud.
To the library, and big thanks to you. I've
Yeah.
just read so much.
Awesome.
I really knew quite a bit.
Hey.
Yeah.
Suzanne, sorry, I just didn't catch the date of the death without the workshop entries.
I believe it's the 8th of November.
Right, you. Would you rather pick a skill from one of us, or would you rather have dinner with someone who's passed on of your choosing?
Oh, okay. I would rather pick a skill from probably a nursing skill. I think if I could do it again, because an end-of-life doula sort of is a nursing role, and I sort of envy that caretaking role. So working as a hospice nurse would be ideal to me. But what I hear from a lot of nurses is that they don't have the time to do the emotional care work and have conversations and the support work that they would like to. So it's kind of a catch-22. Yep. But yeah.
Jane, would you like to answer the same question? So it was, can you borrow a skill from one of us here, or you can pick someone who's passed on to have dinner with? No, choice is yours.
I really don't know. Don't know.
Which is interesting, right?
Building skills is good, but I'm not quite sure. Yeah, I'm not very. I'm not good at making things like woodwork and stuff. I'd quite like to be able to make something practical, like I've got the shroud, maybe. But then I've got people in my family I'm sure could do that. But yeah, I'm not sure. I'll pass on, but I might think of something later.
Yeah, was it? Yeah, the word that pops into my mind is what's meaningful, really, isn't it? Well, for me. So I guess it's knowing where to seek that help, where to get those skills from, and it's that knowing and networking, really. I think that's the key. Having the ability to gather that information that's required and to be able to communicate that with who needs that. So, yeah, I don't see kind of having a meal with someone who's passed as, I don't know, might be cheap, yeah.
I mean, it would be amazing, to meet family members you've never met. I have two great-grandmothers that my knowledge of them is quite special, but I've never met them. It would be quite amazing to do that.
Special.
Definitely I would rather have a skill from one of these people on this panel. I believe that the people I love that I would want to have dinner with every night, I do anyway. Yeah. So those people who have passed on there, I don't believe that they're just dust. So I believe in spiritual. So they're here. I can talk to them. I do.
Beautiful.
Gosh, yes, so many skills that I'd want to acquire, particularly in this panel as well. But actually, if that was the choice, my grandmother was 40 when she had a debilitating stroke, and so I never actually was able to hear her speak. So she was fluent in Te Reo, but she couldn't speak. I think I was born when just after she had her stroke. So all of my life, I think she lived for another 20 years. She couldn't communicate, so I would go back and have a long kai with her before she'd had her stroke, and then so I could hear her what she sounded like and listen to her in Te Reo. So that would be what I would do, yeah. And then have skills too, thanks. No.
Yeah, I'm a bit the same. I'd steal a bit of everything from everyone up here. But when you said the question, there was just one person, for me. Like I said, I was raised by my grandmother, who's now 99, but her husband, who is the love of her life, died very young, so he wasn't even 40. So she spent most of her life without him. So I've grown up listening to her talk about him. And so for 47 years I've listened to my nan talk about the love of her life. So I would absolutely want to have dinner with him and her together and see the relationship that they had. And and yeah, hear his voice and listen to him speak, because he was one of the most wonderful men. My mum still talks about him. She was only 8 when he died, and she even talks about him like he was sent from heaven. So that would be the person that I would want to spend my dinner with him and my nan together. Yeah.
All right. I am extremely grateful for all of us beautiful ladies up here. Thank you for sharing this space, sharing these talks, making them available for other people. Thank you to Richard for being here to immortalise it for us. Do we mind if we get a group photo before we all depart too? Is that okay? Yeah, thank you again to Ange and helping to also hold the space over this week. Yeah, I'm really, really grateful. I'm almost a little bit lost for words. Like I'm genuinely grateful of the depths that people are willing to share with strangers in public as well. It could seem really daunting, but we've achieved it, and this week has, I would say, been a success. We have these conversations, we're one-on-one or in a panel like this, and we each then go off and have another conversation with another one person, and that's that ripple effect that we talk about, and how we're going to get that information through to other people and other communities. Yeah. Does anybody?
These things don't happen overnight, though. So
No.
I think we owe you a big thank you for all the work that you do.